So we begin chapter 2 with Rabbi, HaNassi, Judah the Prince, who is a son of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, who we ended off chapter 1 with. And he continues. Also, HaNassi, I'll explain more, was a student of the students of Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Meir. So more on that. So let's first read what he says. And today we're just going to do actually the very first part, because there's a lot to say over here. He said, I'm going to read it in the Hebrew and then translate it. Izu derech yishara, which is the right path, the straight path, right path. What is the right path in life? I think we're all looking for that, right? What's the straight path in life? So you would think, well, what do you mean? Torah and mitzvahs is the straight path. Serving God is a straight path. We learn all about this. Well, we're going to a new dimension in all of this, and I'll explain. Chapter 2 means it's the next rung on the ladder from chapter 1. So we need to appreciate what chapter 1 was all about, and then we can appreciate the uniqueness in chapter 2. So therefore, he asks the question, because this is the beginning of chapter 2, the first Mishnah. We're starting a sort of new level of the path in life, the journey, the divine service. And what is that? Of course, again, we'll explain, but we're just going through his words now. So, so we need to understand that. What do you mean straight? What do you mean by straight as opposed to what? Not straight, like skipping, like the word yishara. It's right, it means straight, it means direct. So there's a nuance in the word there that we need to. Shiyaver loy ha'adam, that a person should choose. And the word here is adam. Adam, you need to understand that, is the highest dimension there is of humanness, named after Adam. Named after Adam. There's Gever, Ish, and Ish, Adam. Adam is the highest. So why the term here Adam is being used as opposed to another term to understand usage for humanity? So that's the question. The answer is Kol Shi Tiferes Lei Seha. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Before that, another question. What do you mean that you choose for yourself? What does that mean exactly, to choose for yourself? Doesn't God kind of choose so much for me? And, as a Jew, 613 mitzvahs we have, we know every seventh day there's a Shabbos. Every day we got to pray. Every day, you got to eat kosher. You got to so what does it mean choose over here? How do we understand that? And what area of choice? So he explains. Kol shi tiferes, everything that is tiferes. Tiferes we translate as beauty. That is beautiful. For the one who does it. The translation here is harmonious. Well, we'll get into that. But it really means beautiful. It's beautiful for the one that does it. Tiferes loy min ha'adam. And it is beautiful, harmonious for others, for humanity. So it's a very interesting point. I don't know if that's necessarily the attitude people have today in 21st century. Am I doing that, which is I got to be true to myself, that it's going to be harmonious with others? Is that important? Why? Well, why isn't it just let me be in harmony with me? Isn't that beautiful? I have to be harmonious with the rest of the world, right? How do we understand that? How does that make sense? So again, let's read these words. HaNassi, he would say, which is the right path, the straight path that a person should choose for themselves. And the answer is whatever is harmonious, beautiful for the one who does it, and beautiful and harmonious for the rest of humanity. So those are some of the questions that I have. Does anybody else have questions for themselves that they have difficulty with this? No, my questions were good enough? Okay. You don't have to have a question. That's all right. Okay. So let's get into this. Let's get into appreciating this comment over here. So first of all, some background of Yehuda HaNassi. Some of you might be familiar with him already. He is the individual, might be credited for preserving Judaism, because he is the one who is the redactor, the one who wrote down the Mishneh. The Mishneh is the first writing of any of the oral Torah. This was in the 2nd century. I don't know, around the beginning of the 2nd century to the middle, somewhere in the middle of the 2nd century, or a couple of decades into the 2nd century of the Common Era. And he standardized an accepted form of the Jewish teaching. Now, why did he write it down? Because Roman persecution at the time was horrific. And there was a great fear of the sages that they would be so dispersed and so lost that we would not have a standard form of Jewish teachings that would be remembered and given to the next generation. And hence, it needed to be documented. Now, in his time, he was an extremely wealthy person who had no pleasure from his wealth. His pleasure was giving for others. But because of his wealth, he had a great friendship with Anthony Caesar. And because of that, gained a respite for the Jewish people in his days, that they were able to study, they were able to observe, they were able to live a Jewish life. When he passed, things didn't go well. He is called Rabbi here in the Mishneh. Rabbi means my teacher. His function becomes his name, which is an amazing thing. Our Rabbi also, we call him Rabbi. His function becomes who he is, because what is his function is to teach, is to enlighten the world. And that becomes him. And that's how he's known here, even though in many other places the term would be Rabbi Yehuda HaNassi, because he was the Nasi. Nasi means he was the head of the Jewish people. And that would be the term. But, the word Nasi is an adjective, but it's not him. Rabbi is him, in reference to him. And what's that reference? As a teacher, but the teacher, that's who he is. And that's okay, by the way. Even though you think, what do you mean? He's a father, he's a this, he's a that, he's a husband. True. But what is he in core? He is the light of Torah, to making sure it doesn't get diminished, and that it will continue from generation to generation. So that's who he is. He's also, in the Talmud, he's called Rabbeinu HaKadosh, our teacher HaKadosh, the Holy One, because he had the ultimate level of wisdom and greatness. As the Talmud actually speaks about him, that from Moshe Rabbeinu, from Moses to Rebbe, they're not seen any like him that had Torah, wisdom, and human greatness, human achievement of great character quality, all in one person. Just as Moshe Rabbeinu had it all in one person, in him, one person had true scholarship, greatness, and great character. Which is very unusual. Usually great scholars are not great. They're more in their head, less in their heart. People are more in their heart, they're less in their head. That's the nature of, human condition. To have both together, that they're the top of the line in their minds and their wisdom, and at the same time in character quality. That's one of the kind. That was, as the Talmud says, about Moshe Rabbeinu and Rabbi. He was so esteemed that in the Talmud, when they asked the question, "Who will be Mashiach?" So they say that if it would be in the times of our lives, so then it would, of course, would be Rabbi, because he's the greatest of us all. That's what kind of person he was. Extremely caring, devoted. As I mentioned, he was extremely wealthy. As a matter of fact, it says he was so wealthy that him and that actually his so wealthy that the wealth came down to all those around him, that even his stable master was more wealthy than Caesar himself. That's how wealthy he was. All right. So that's something about him. Rabbi. So he uses here, first we're going to go through some of the more simple understanding of what the teachings is, and then we're going to go into a more mystical and a deeper understanding, a deeper awareness of it. Okay? So he's emphasizing here a harmonious divine worship, right? A balance. The balance between one's own spiritual growth and how you are dealing with the people around you. Now, where does this come from? Well, we see it in the very 10 Commandments. 2 tablets. First tablets is our responsibility between us and God, and the second tablets is our responsibility between us and humanity, being part of society, being part of a community. So it can't just be, me for myself, spiritual growth, but there has to be how that imparts that beauty to others. And that's what the word Tiferes means. Tiferes means beauty. What is beautiful? So beauty means something that's harmonious. Harmonious means that there's different, colors, like Karen has up on her screen over here, a bunch of different colors that are very harmonious in the light that it shines from her screen. That's harmonious, meaning bringing different, what's not harmonious is if you got a big blotch over here and a contrasting color somewhere else, there isn't harmony, nothing seems to be connected. But when you get a bunch of colors coming together in a painting, and you sense the harmony, that's what we call beauty. All right, that's what we call beauty. So he is, in his soul, that kind of harmonious person. Where do we see that? He's called Yehuda HaNassi. One of the terms that he's called is Yehuda HaNassi. Nasi, as we said, means leader of the Jewish people. But it's also a acronym for Nitzutza Shel Yaakov Avinu. He is the spark of Jacob, our forefather. Now, what does that mean? I mean, just like Jacob was who he was, Yaakov Avinu, and we'll explain the uniqueness of him. So he's the continuation of that idea. So let's explain. Avram Avinu, we all know, was the embodiment of loving kindness. He would seek out and be there for any person in a manner of loving kindness, out there seeking to feed, to bring people closer to God in an extrovert way, right? Giving. His son, Yitzchak, was the opposite. He is the embodiment of Gvura, of power. He is the power of self-restraint. We see that he is the one, he was 37 years old when his when he was being brought as an offering on the altar by his father. So it wasn't just about his father, but it was about his greatness of the power of self-restraint, allowing himself to be this offering, right? In the story of the Akedah. So he's the embodiment of Gvura. So that's the right hand, that's the left hand. That's not beauty. Beautiful is not when you're always giving. Beautiful isn't when you're always, and for sure, isn't when you're always the power of Gvura, of strength. Beauty is when you can have a harmony between the two when they come together. And that expresses itself in compassion. Compassion is the idea of chesed and gvura, of loving kindness and gvura, power, judgment. Loving kindness is giving without any conditions, giving without any restraint. That's what loving kindness is, giving without any condition. Gvura is actually, you can also give, but it is with a condition. Now, should you give sometimes with condition, sometimes without condition? Of course. Sometimes you have to hold back. Sometimes you have to say no. In other words, you can, if it's your birthday and you can say, it's my birthday, everybody unconditionally is getting a l'chaim, right? You're giving to everybody. Indiscriminate giving. Sometimes you have to be discriminating in your giving or holding back even. That's what gvura, the power of gvura is. And sometimes you have to say no to the child for the ice cream that they want before dinner, for example. That's important. So there is both things we need, being indiscriminate and discriminate. You know what compassion means? You're being discriminate and indiscriminate at the same time. That's beautiful. Why? How are you being discriminating? Because if you were just loving kindness, you'd be indiscriminate in your giving. And even the one who doesn't deserve gets. Compassion means the person doesn't really deserve. And you are discriminating and aware of that. But yet you give out of compassion. You give out of compassion. So you have both things here. You're making there's a judgment here. So if someone works for you, for example, and didn't do the job, so discriminating, say, well, you're supposed to work, $20 an hour and for 2 hours, but you loafed off for a whole hour. So discriminating, say, well, it's only coming to you in a discriminating manner, judgment. The $20 for 1 hour, not $40 for 2 hours, because you didn't work that hour, as you said yourself, right? Now, out of compassion, maybe you'll give the person, you give the person out of compassion, not indiscriminate. Well, in the end, the giving is indiscriminate in the sense that you're giving. So that is bringing two things together, and that's beautiful. In the human condition. That's what Jacob was. He was the embodiment of compassion. And that's what Rabbi is. He is the embodiment of synthesis of that which is beautiful. Meaning two opposites that you can bring together and harmonize them. That's what's beautiful is. Right? And that means balance. And here means balance between, on a simple level, between your spiritual growth and being there for others, imparting that beauty of your spiritual growth with others. Right? As opposed to be on the top of the Tibetan mountain, where you're just engaged in your spiritual growth. Or the other degree, where you are just out there for others and you don't engage in your own. You're just out there giving, without developing your own spiritual growth. That's the balance we're talking about. Okay. That's the middle path, right? So some of the Bartanura, for example. So that's just the basis. Now let's go more into this. So what does that mean, the middle path? So the Bartanura, one of the commentaries in the Mishnah, explains that, for example, you shouldn't be stingy. That's one extreme. On the other hand, you shouldn't be giving too much. You shouldn't do that, right? There needs to be a middle ground. You shouldn't be extremely gluttonous, but then on the other hand, you shouldn't be someone who is just always like pushing away and negating for yourself everything. The middle ground. That's the simple idea of what talking about over here. At another level, the Midrash says, so in other words, that's beautiful for you, and that's a beautiful what you should impart with others. The Midrash gives an explanation that what is he speaking about over here? In when you have an opportunity to do a mitzvah that's between you and God, and you have a mitzvah, an opportunity to do a mitzvah between you and others, do the one with others. Why? Because when you do the one with others, that's also beautifying you, and at the same time, you're imparting and giving something to others. It's actually, when I was learning this Shabbos, I enjoy learning on my own. Why? Because I can attain maybe more through learning on my own than sometimes teaching, because it takes time and to bring it down, and the person should understand and appreciate, and especially sometimes it depends, the circumstance. And in any case, so this Shabbos, come to shul, and I was ready. It's Gimel Tammuz. I've got to prepare the Rebbe's last Hasidic discourse, and I really want to I had this plan to really go through it and really know it well. After all, this is the Rebbe's Yortzeit. There's a time I need to my personal connection, and then came two other people into shul early than I thought they would. Said to myself, you know what? How can I just learn for myself and not share with others? Anyways, I wasn't thinking about this mission, to be quite frank, but I said, okay, you know what? I'm sure this is the right thing to do. I want to engage in my self-development and growth and awareness and learning and connection. And that's what I was looking forward to do. Then I realized, you know what? Ultimately, if it's only good for me and it's not imparting spiritual growth to others, then, as the Mishneh is teaching us over here, choose that mitzvah. That's what the Midrash says. Okay. That is all the simple understanding. We're going to take this now a notch deeper. Okay. We're going to entertain questions later. Okay. Everybody is welcome to questions and discussion. That's the way we like to do it over here. Just a reminder that we are on Zoom, we're on Facebook, and we're also on Clubhouse. Okay, so we're going to get everybody involved here. So, which is now some of the Rebbe's teachings to give us a little more profound understanding. So we need to know that we're in the second chapter, means we're on the second rung from the first rung. What was the first rung? Was all about, what's the beginning of divine service? What's the beginning of Judaism? Is actually the very beginning, as we explained in chapter 1, that Moses received the Torah from Sinai. We need to be a recipient. We need to be able to have the humility to accept. Moses did from God, and then he gave it and passed it on to Joshua, and so on. The beginning is the humility that I can accept and do as told. And that's actually when you're, raised as a child. We need to accept our parents that they tell us to do something. That's how life is. We don't go off and figure out things on our own first, right? We don't. We listen. We do as told. We're obedient. Well, that's how it is in Jewish life. The first thing is to learn how to be a recipient, to have bittul, self-abnegation, that I'm taking from a higher place. Moses took from Sinai. And that takes humility to be able to do that. Okay, a child doesn't have the humility, they're a child and they, right? But for us, right, that's the first thing. That's chapter 1, that it gives us the tools on how to be that true recipient. But then we go to chapter 2. Now we go to another level. We're taking this to the next level. What's that? First was nase, we will do as told. But then there's nishma. Now I got to listen. Now I got to integrate it. Now I've got to own it and make it mine. It's not enough that I am just a recipient, but I have to own it. I have to make it mine. And that comes to a higher level. And that's why the word Adam over here. The word Adam is the highest level of a human being. It's Adam Elyon, Adam. It means, or one of the meanings is at least, Adam Elyon. I'm compared to above. So what is above? Well, God's got complete ownership, right? Of everything. So we need complete ownership of my life. I need to own it. I need to integrate it. I need to make it mine and not just in obedience that I accept it. That's the beginning of the process. The process is I have to be able to learn that. And in that sense, it could be sometimes a ball and chain, and sometimes, when the parent tells the child, clean your room before dinner, sometimes that's ball and chain. And, it's child doesn't like it. The child has to learn to do it. By the way, if we don't teach a child to do that, and everything is like a discussion, everything, that's the helicopter parenting today. Everything's a discussion. Do you like it? If not, okay, we won't do this. That's not so healthy because you don't teach obedience. And obedience ultimately means that you can be obedient to your own voice, the voice of God that is, right? Ultimately, if we don't have that that a parent gives us that, now it doesn't have to be in a harsh way. It should be in a harsh way. I'm not saying that. I'm not suggesting that. 100 years ago was harsh today, but the notion that there's no such thing as just because I said, we're not doing well. Again, how to do that, and that will be in the parenting course. We're not doing a parenting course over here right now. I'm just giving that as metaphor, as an example for us to appreciate the concept. But then we need to come to the next level, that it's not because I've been merely told, but it's something I choose. And that's what we're speaking about over here. That a person chooses. The very fact that you are choosing now your connection to God, your commitment, that you're owning it. It's not something that is just nase that I just do in an obedient manner, but I am choosing because this is what I want. That's true beauty. That is truly beautiful. That's transformative. And it becomes beautiful. Why? Furthermore, that notion itself is beautiful, but it becomes beautiful because you do it now with complete joy and enthusiasm. That's transformative. That's where real transformation takes place. The obedience is more that, the obedience gets us to do things in a consistent, constant manner, and it becomes sort of our nature. But that doesn't mean we're doing it with joy and enthusiasm. That's the second level that we're speaking about over here, right? That's the second level. Then that's transformation. That's transformative, because transformation means you're transforming the self, right? Obedience means you're not in transforming the inside of you. You're only in obedience means in my actions I am doing. I cleaned the room. That were my actions. I do it with joy. As a child, no, I didn't do it with joy because I just did what I had to do. That's the first level. That's not transformative. Transformation comes, as the old story, I've told many times. Guy comes to to the corner store, buys a few things, gives a $20 note bill to the cashier, and then he puts out his hand. Change, please. Cashier looks at him or her, says, "Sorry, sir. Change comes from within." So change, transformation comes from within. Obedience comes from without. And in a sense, from without, it's coming from because I'm obedient to my parent. I'm obedient because God says I got to do this, right? So I do it. Level 1, level 2, transformation. That comes from within. That's something I got to choose. I have to want that in my life. I can always remain obedient. I can always remain that child and be obedient to the word of God, what he wants me to do, right? And I'll listen to him. I'll do the mitzvah. I'll be charitable. I'll keep kosher, but come on. You smell that good smell from that place is coming? You didn't own it. This is where we're at now. So then the question is, okay, that's the beginning, right? I'm a person now, compared to above, to the divine, and I'm beautiful because there's something transformative in the very desire that I want to choose. What do I want to choose? The straight path. What does it mean, the straight path over here? Straight path that's going to lead to transformation, right? The straight path that's going to lead to transformation. So what do we answer? There are two things. Give me 1 second. It's my sister from Israel. This is my sister from Israel. Hi, I'm just in the middle of a class, so I'm going to finish shortly. I'm going to give you a call, 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes. Okay? Goodbye. Her birthday, or was yesterday. So, I'm choosing that I want to transform. So where will the transformation take place? That when I do that which is beautiful for me and for others. What does that mean? So what's beautiful for me? What is beauty for us? So remember, beauty means something that is taking two opposites and two opposites, bringing them together. So what's the two opposites in me? I have a godly soul. I have an animal soul. So beauty means over here that I can be harmonious, that I don't just talk to my godly nature, to my higher being, but I engage in the straight path of transformation of also that lower part in me, the animal soul, that is just self-directed, self-love, seeking just, pleasure, comfort, and so on. And then I engage that part of me to be transformative, that it too recognizes that the greatest pleasure is not material pleasure. The greatest comfort is not a physical comfort. The greatest pleasure and comfort is in connecting to God. The godly soul doesn't care about that. Godly soul just, God, I just want you, right? That's all I want. The animal soul doesn't. It wants something. It wants to have a gain from it. So the second level of where you're owning, then it becomes transformative, transforming. I don't need to transform my godly nature, my godly, but my animal nature I need to. So what does that mean? So some people, they did that back in the day. They would roll in the snow, they deprive themselves, they would fast to break the animal. He was saying, no, that's not the Hasidic way. That's not the deeper way. That's not beautiful. That's a real battle. He's saying something that's harmonious. So what's harmonious is that I'm taking its nature where it wants pleasure and it wants comfort, and I'm giving it a higher form of pleasure and comfort, and it recognizes that, this is really good. Learning Torah, that's real pleasure. That's truly comforting of the soul. And you're giving it to that. That's transformative. That's what it becomes an awareness to the animal nature that we have. And then, of course, it doesn't stay there. Because if it stays only there, in other words, if I'm only concerned for my growth and my comfort and pleasure, but I don't give that to another, I don't bring that beauty to another, then I really haven't appreciated the true pleasure and comfort that there is in the teachings, in the divine service, in the mitzvah that I'm engaged in. But when it's truly beautiful and it's truly transformative, of course, it's not going to remain just in my own domain, in my own world, in my own heart and soul, but I will share whatever I have with another. That is a very powerful teaching. Ties in with this week's parsha, by the way. I don't have time for that right now, because I want to hear if anybody has what to share, any thoughts over here. So we have a bunch of people here. Please, we have a few moments left. Michelle.
Hi, Rabbi.
Hello.
So I'm just thinking about what you said, and I just want to go over this so it's clear in my head.
Sure, please do.
So the obedience gets us to do the action.
Right.
But to do, hang on a second, let me think about this. The obedience gets us to do the action only. But what's transformative is that we do it with enjoyment. Is this correct?
What's transformative is firstly the desire that you want to transform your inner being of the animal soul that is seeking pleasure, comfort in a material, physical, or it could even be in a spiritual way, but that is devoid of divine connection. What you're doing here is bringing it into the into a divine connection. That I'm transforming it, that where my pleasure is in learning Torah. Where's my pleasure? In doing a mitzvah. Where is my pleasure? Of reaching out to another and being there for them. That's my pleasure. That's transformative. That's beautiful.
And once we reach that state, does gratitude come forward? Are we grateful to be given the opportunity to do this, not just do it because we're being told?
Absolutely.
So,
in other words, it's something where
stimulates gratitude.
it's something that we are choosing. The idea is that we are choosing this. That's the beauty over here, as opposed to the obedience previously, the previous chapter, right? The notion is the choosing that I want to connect, I want to serve, and I want to transform myself into what I should be. And that's the notion over here. Is that making sense?
It makes perfect sense, but I just want to go over one more thing.
Sure, go ahead.
The animal nature within us, are you saying wants instant satisfaction? You want it, you get it, it's over. Whereas the godly nature is harmonious, a satisfaction that is a higher form of pleasure and comfort, which allows us to continue growing?
Actually, not really.
Okay, so this is why.
Yeah. No, the godly soul wants to connect for no reason other than it's like a child. I'm going to give a metaphor for this. Why does a child, like you're walking, a 5-year-old child walking with a mother, father in a department store, it's a big place, and they just kind of like hug their knee and want to connect? How come? I mean, it could be the fear of it's the fear of disconnect, in the child. The fear of disconnect. What's the fear of disconnect? They're not really aware necessarily that they're going to get lost. They're 5. I don't necessarily they're thinking that because they don't maybe have that experience. It's just they feel connected and they don't want to be disconnected. Why? Just because they are connected and they don't want to be disconnected from their mother, period, right? It's beyond any reason. It's just the nature of the child, right? That's the nature of the soul. It's connected to God. It's a part of God. So all it wants is to be connected. Why? Just because that's its nature. So the animal soul, though, is the opposite. It wants to be self-absorbed. It wants to have comfort. It wants to enjoy life. It wants to have pleasure. What are we saying? Okay, that's its nature. Fine. Now transform it. How do you transform it? Pleasure. You can have pleasure from an apple. You can have pleasure, from a sweet apple. You can have pleasure from sweet music. You can have pleasure from a sweet idea. And you can have the greatest pleasure from the sweetness of godliness, of a mitzvah. That you can have pleasure in that. That's the animal soul being transformed. That its pleasure now is doing a mitzvah. So it's like, when you have like, you're with a friend and you got 2 pieces of food over here. There's one that's really looks beautiful and the other one is not so. Your pleasure is to give the nice one to your friend. Right? The animal soul, by nature, wants to have that nicer, looking apple, and the what's not so nice, So sometimes we're embarrassed to do that, so we might give the nicer one to our friend. Can you imagine your pleasure is to give that nicer one, that you don't have the nicer one? That is transformative.
Crystal clear now. Thank you so much, Rabbi.
God bless. Michelle. Doctor. Go ahead.
I suppose I'm listening to you all the time with sort of 2 questions, also at a higher level, because it seems to me that one the greatness and the aesthetic is always to go to the higher level, in the level that includes all the other levels. So it's just a higher plane. It's just also an aesthetic of ethics. And I'm interested in 2 things. One, because inherently I seem to have inherited this and that we need to use it in ourselves to make a better world. But also, I think this is the gift we've got for the other nations. And it's a wonderful treasure that we have. And I think in expounding it, as it were, opens it up, to the air and allows it to germinate. But the idea of a sort of a final ethic, that sort of, that includes all the others and makes it more beautiful and puts you in another place. And then it sounds maybe to go to another level. Because you learn, you're beginning to make that sort of, it's almost like an aesthetic. Things can be beautiful, but the aesthetic is at a higher concept, a more interesting, a more fulfilling, a more in tune, a more one that brings you to somewhere else. And also, sorry, I'm getting a poetic, but it's
no,
with poetry.
Nice poetry. I'm appreciating it.
Thank you. It just flows. The joy flows out of me. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, very true, very true. Ricky, please share with us. Oops. Did you get there? Did it work? That's weird. What's going on here? Okay. Can you hear me, Ricky?
I can hear you now.
Okay, go ahead. Please share.
Thank you for bringing me up. I was wanting to ask the difference, if that speaks to the difference between joy and pleasure, and if there is such a thing as spiritual pleasure, or it's all considered joy.
Pleasure is deeper. Pleasure is the deepest thing that there is in the human condition.
But is it always physical? Because the way
No. That's exactly the point that we're talking about. To be transformative means taking it from a lower level of pleasure. So as I mentioned, there's pleasure in the sweetness of an apple. There's pleasure in a sweetness that's now not physical but abstract of music, right? The sweetness of music. There's even higher than that is the pleasure in the sweetness of an idea. When you get an idea, right? And it resonates with you and it touches you, you feel a pleasure. You feel a pleasure in that. Then the highest level is the sweetness, the pleasure that we have in something that's of a godly nature. All right. So to give, unconditionally, to learn Torah, God's wisdom, and to appreciate not just the intelligence of it, but that there's something really godly there. There's something other than just, my mind got it. There's something that you sense, something like, godly. I don't know a better word to use. So you're right, absolutely. So those are all part of the transformation that we're talking about, that we're capable of in choosing that in our lives. Does that resonate, Ricky?
Yes, a lot, because I find in my life that sometimes doing something that is really difficult for me, that is like short term, seems like it'll make me, it'll take away pleasure, but then like the joy of self-control takes over, and it's always a worthwhile transaction. So thank you for the explanation.
Actually, yeah.
Rabbi, sorry, Rabbi.
So just let me to add to that, Ricky. You're right. Think of the Olympian, right? What they have to put themselves through, the rigorous training and everything, and the great pleasure that there is in the achievement and the accomplishment. The only way you did that is through that transformation. Absolutely. Here, though, we're talking about in the transformation of a self-absorbed nature of the animal instinct that we have in us, of the animal soul. And now what's transformative of it is that the pleasure that we have is in appreciating the connection to the divine, that's truly transformative. See, when we kind of work hard, and the Olympian works hard in order to achieve, in the end, that's really for yourself. Your achievement, and it's all about yourself. It's true that you were able to put yourself aside for a higher goal and so on, which is, in the human condition, an achievement. We're talking about here rising beyond the human condition and being transformative, in that you are now having the animal soul that is self-directed, self-love, looking for self-fulfillment, and recognizes that the greatest pleasure and comfort that it can have is a divine connection. That's amazing. That's truly transformative. Michelle, sorry, you wanted to say something.
No, I just wanted to ask, is there such a thing as a truly selfless act if whatever we do is going to make us feel good and have that true joy? We know that it's going to make us feel good, like giving over the apple or taking someone a bunch of flowers.
Right.
Do you understand my question?
Absolutely. Excellent question.
Okay.
Excellent question. So, so
I would love to hear about that, because I've debated this question with so many people.
So,
go ahead, Reb.
All right. So here we go. Here we go, folks. So the notion is as follows. We never really know what motivates us. And is it, am I bringing the flowers so that person is going to be nice to me now? Am I bringing the flowers that I should feel good about me doing the good? Then you're right. That's not a selfless, and that's, that's not, the act is good. And we shouldn't take away from the act, by the way. The act is good. Now, the question is, where was I in my intention in that act? So, where the limits this could be is that when I did something really nice, but it didn't work out for whatever reason. Wasn't accepted, those flowers, as such a kind act for whatever reason. So if you're gonna be down on yourself and say, oh, it wasn't worth it, what a waste, and I didn't get my intended result. So then, you were just, it wasn't an act of true giving. It was an act of true receiving. I wanted to receive by giving. So it wasn't real. If I give and I have no expectation of what the result is, that is real. And that's what, that is truly transformative. Now, does that mean we shouldn't give even though we haven't gotten to that space yet? We should still give, because the act is still an act of mitzvah. It's like, should I give charity even though I really, in my heart, I don't feel there, right? Well, that's chapter 1. Chapter 1 is, yes, the world stands on 3 things, and one of them is charity. So be charitable even though you're just doing it out of obedience. And even though you're doing it to feel good, do it. But now come to chapter 2, own it, transform, get ready to choose. I am choosing as an Adam. Adam is Adam Alelyon, that I'm similar to the divine. The divine, God does it out of true love for us. We can do it out of true devotion. We're capable, but we have to choose that. What do I choosing here? That I want to transform and where change only comes from within. Remember, don't ask for change again. Right? Change only comes from within, and that's the beauty of us, that we can be transformative from within. What does that mean? My animal soul that is self-directed with self-love, I am now seeking to transform that I can turn it inside out and now truly have that beauty from within. So it's work. It's work. We're a work in progress. So don't think that if you haven't gotten there, I'm working on that. Have I gotten there? I've got to ask myself that. Am I really and truly holding by this? I'm a work in progress. Like the rest of us. Is that clear?
I do have one more question. Do you have time?
Sure. A few more moments I have. Yeah, I mean, since it's such a good Fabringen and everybody is staying on on Clubhouse and on Facebook and on Zoom, so it seems like everybody's enjoying this. Go ahead.
You mentioned giving to charity.
Yes.
Is giving to charity anonymously a greater mitzvah than putting your name down to a pledge of money?
It depends. It depends. You know, giving is the act. So we got to do it. We have to do it. Now, the question is, where's my heart and soul in that act? Where am I? So if I'm motivated that I should feel good and people should look good at me, okay, better to give that way than not to give. And if I'm going to give more because of that, so be it. Now, the higher level is that it's not about me. It's about the giving and about the one that needs, right? Whether it's the institution that needs, whether it's the person that needs. So let me explain. What does that mean? So if it's not about me and it's about whom I'm giving to, again, to whether it's the institution you're giving to, whether it's the person you're giving to, right? If it's about them, right? Is it better for them that my name should be associated with it or not? If it's better for them that my name should not be associated, so you know what? I'll give it honestly, no problem. If it's better though that I give in a way that my name is associated, so then with self-sacrifice, put your name there. Even though you don't need your name there, you don't want your name there, but you're going to put your name there. Why would that be better? Well, if you're giving to an institution, it's ooh, look how much you gave. Well, what's it going to do for when I see, I look into, there's a magazine that goes through philanthropy of different people and what they give, the billions and the millions, not in the league to give that way, but you know what, it inspires me. But their name is associated. If it's going to now inspire other people to give, because your name is associated with this institution and you gave so much, then put your name there, because the institution, they want that, because that's going to inspire other people to give. So it's not about you. If it's not about you and it's about what will come out of through you because of your giving. So if it's better to hide your name, because if you're giving to a person, sometimes, they don't want, but maybe that person, on the contrary, they want your name because that's going to inspire others. So then, so be it. Is that clear?
That is amazing. Thank you so much, Rabbi. I have no more questions.
All right. I'm going to have to, I just want to see here on Zoom, anybody? Davida, Liba, everybody's been quiet over here, listening so well. My gosh, amazing. All right. So you know what? I actually need to get to my sister before it is too late, because it's in Israel and it's getting late. So actually, Eliezer, just a brief, if you will, because I have to give birthday wishes to my dear sister in the Holy Land. So to conclude, Eliezer, please share with us.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for hosting this and wish her a happy birthday.
Thank you. That's very nice of you. Very nice and sweet. Since we're talking about, what's beautiful is that which is Tiferes. So that's very sweet and beautiful. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Rabbi. I think you have an amazingly clear way of explaining things, and I wish we had these classes more often.
So every Tuesday we have Pirkei Avot, these ethics. There's a daily class, 9:30 a.m. every day for Tanya. And just a reminder that Thursday we're starting a new section. Tomorrow we're going to have the conclusion of the book 2 of Tanya, and then Thursday we're starting a new book, and in that we're going to start Tanya journaling. Many of you are getting the Tanya journal, so that way you can help to actually own, to tie in with chapter 2 here, to own your connection, own your own life in a much deeper way. That's coming. If you want more information on that, go to tanyarabbi.com/Tanya journal, tanyarabbi.com.
Only on Thursday, Rabbi? Only on Thursday?
No, Tanya, every day. It's every day of the week. And the journal helps us every single day of the week, as much as you want to journal, as little as you want to journal, that's up to you. But if you go to tanyajournal.com tanyarabbi.com/Tanya journal, you will get it there. And you can sign up to get the journal. And also there's a mentoring program if you want to opt for that. That's not necessary. Actually, I'm kind of full in that first session, but at least to get the journal. And so that's daily. And even if you don't get that, by the way, if you don't get the journal, every day 9:30, we're here on Clubhouse. If you follow me or Chabad on Clubhouse, then you'll get an indication. And also this Pirkei Avot will be every Tuesday and Thursday. We also do some teachings about that's for Maimonides. That's it for today, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you all. You should be blessed with a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Well, how did everybody enjoy the Clubhouse discussion?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Okay. Reggie, how was it?
Very good.
Eliana, how was it? Michael, Leslie.
Oh, it was great. Thank you.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay, folks. We'll see you tomorrow morning for Tanya. Be well. Sei gesund.